I'm back with author Robert Whiting and Marvin Miller. Robert Whiting has written The Meaning of Ichiro. You also wrote Chrysanthemum and the Bat.
Yes.
And The Meaning of Wa. Right.
You got to have Wa.
You got to have Wa.
Yeah.
Wa meaning unity and team spirit.
Harmony, yes.
Harmony.
Right. The Japanese have a players' union which has publicly vowed never to strike because it wouldn't be fair to the fans or the owners or the people who work in the parking lots and the stadium concessions. It sounds nice, and a lot of them are serious when they say that, but there's also a slight problem with there's only 13,000 lawyers in Japan. It's not a litigious society. And even if they did go to court, it would probably take 100 years for the case to be resolved. So.
Let's talk about skills. The one thing that fascinated American customers of baseball, people that had a passion for the game, is not necessarily that Ichiro did it, but how he did it. One of the more unusual styles of hitting that I've ever seen.
Right.
Almost running when he hits the ball.
Right. Well, his father taught him that. His father was a frustrated high school baseball player who wanted to be pro, and he took Ichiro as a 3-year-old, and he started training him every day, and he taught him to hit that way left-handed, to take advantage of his speed and to go to first base and faster than the others. And Ichiro wasn't exactly thrilled about having to play baseball every day. And there's a famous story. When he was 7 or 8 years old, he said, "I want to go play with my friends." And your father said, "No, you're going to stay here in the park and practice." And the father...
Was it a healthy relationship or just a horrible father-son relationship between the two?
Well, the father wrote a book about it. He said it was really a healthy, fun relationship. And I asked Ichiro about that, and he laughed and he sort of said, "He's a liar." But then he said, "Well, he had my best interests at heart, but it was really tough for me."
Well, here's a man who won 7 straight batting titles in Japan,
right,
and was willing to accept almost anything the Seattle Mariners were willing to give him. I mean, you talk about one of the great bargains. He signed a $13 million contract for 3 years. I mean, it was.
He could have written his own ticket.
Sure.
In Japan. Hideki Matsui was the other great player in Japan for the Tokyo Giants.
Hugely popular.
And he was offered a 6-year contract for $64 million, the highest offer in the history of Japanese professional baseball. And he turned that down to sign with the Yankees for $21 million over 3 years, $7 a year, because he said he wanted to test himself against the best.
And Marvin, I know you know a lot about the way Japanese ownership operates. I mean, even to the point where if a player wants to sign a commercial endorsement, the team gets 20% of it. And agents were only came into Japanese baseball when, in 2001?
Yes, that's right.
What you're describing about Japanese baseball, whatever shortcomings there are in terms of decent relationship with players, existed here first.
By the way, Sandy Koufax originally or eventually signed for $125,000, and Drysdale received $110,000. That was the best pitching tandem in baseball of their day. We'll be back with Marvin Miller and Bob Whiting right after this.
Elegant hotel accommodations for Chevrolet's Tim McCarver Show are provided by the Kimberly Hotel, offering spacious suites plus true hospitality in the heart of Midtown Manhattan's East Side. When you choose New York, choose a suite at the Kimberly.
Executive Director of the Players Union, and Bob Whiting, who has written a book about Ichiro Suzuki of the Seattle Mariners, but Hideo Nomo, who is seen here throwing his first of 2 no-hitters, was really the first Japanese player who came to America and was successful.
That's right. There's a whole chapter about him in the book, too. He had pitched 5 or 6 years as a top pitcher in Japan. He won 20 games, and his manager was this old-school 300-game winner whose philosophy was sort of pitch until you die. And Nomo developed a sore arm, and his manager said the best way to overcome it is to throw more. And Nomo had just finished reading Nolan Ryan's Bible, or pitching Bible, or whatever it's called. And he said no, so he hired an agent. He'd been watching what the Americans were doing, and he hired this agent, Don Nomura, who found a loophole in the contract. And
What was the loophole, Bob?
well, it had to do with voluntary retirement. In America, if you voluntarily retire and you want to come back to the game, you belong to the team that last held your rights. And that team holds worldwide rights. But the Japanese contract had been copied from a 1930s minor league, U.S. minor league contract, and it didn't have anything about worldwide rights. And so that was the loophole. The letters were exchanged between the two commissioners' offices. Is it okay for a Japanese player to retire and go to the States? And the commissioner said yes, never dreaming that any Japanese player would actually try to do it. So once those letters were signed, Nomo said, I voluntarily retire. And
What a fiercely independent man
yeah,
Nomo proved to be.
very independent, very unusual in Japan. And he was just castigated and excoriated when he left. He was called a deserter, a traitor, defector. But once he started winning in America,
Actually, the first spring.
Right. And they said, the Japanese said, hey, wait a minute, that's our boy over there. And so he's the one who started it all. And then Ichiro, when he became the first everyday player, you started seeing Major League Baseball games on television every day. And last year, the 350 games were telecast live. Mariners and Yankees. I have a neighbor in Kamakura.
You live in Japan.
Yes,
right.
next to Marvin's son, Peter. And we're old friends. And this is a 66-year-old Japanese grandmother who has the starting lineups of the Seattle Mariners, the New York Yankees, and the Los Angeles Dodgers memorized now because she sees them so much on television. So this is a huge change that's happened. It's just, 10 years ago with all the Yomiuri Giants on television. Now there's been a big sea change.
Have the defections, if they're defections, if they are that, has that weakened the Japanese structure? Has it weakened the Tokyo Giants, for instance, the popularity of the Giants?
Yes, they used to have, they've been on nationwide television every night in prime time since 1954, and they used to average in the 20s on their Japanese version of the Nielsen. But after Hideki Matsui left, they fell down to 14%. So they're becoming, when I first went to Japan as a student, they were talking about playing a real World Series with the Americans. Well, that talk has disappeared. Now they're talking about getting a wild card slot in the playoffs, maybe.
Maybe having a Japanese team as a wild card? Is that what?
Well, creating an Asian league and having a playoff in Asia, and the winner of that will get a wild card slot in the MLB playoffs. Mm-hmm. Then, of course, next spring there's supposed to be a World Cup professional, which will be. I would like to see a merger, but Marvin was telling me that's not going to happen until.
Is there drug testing in Japan?
Not professionally, no. Amateur, yes.
What about drug testing? And obviously, that's one of the big situations in the United States now, Mark.
Yes. What about it?
Well, the Balco. Yeah, I realize that none of the people involved in the scandal has been indicted.
None have been charged. Not with anything.
But from a public relations standpoint, it's a nightmare.
Yeah, I think this is a media-driven nightmare. I think that when papers like the New York Times will run article after article about the baseball scandal, when not a single player has yet been accused of anything, is outrageous. And they keep this up as if this were a great, great campaign. I think, the whole thing is a serious problem, but I would just like to see people deal with it on a factual basis rather than what everybody knows, which is when somebody uses that expression, you can go to the bank with it they don't really know what they're talking about. And that's the answer. Everybody knows.
Well, speaking of bank, we're going to take a break for Chevrolet, and we'll be right back with the final segment right after this.
Dining for Chevrolet's Tim McCarver Show is provided by Smith & Wollensky, the quintessential New York steakhouse, serving dry-aged steaks and the freshest seafood. It's no wonder the New York Times calls it a steakhouse to end all arguments. To find a location near you, visit smithandwollensky.com.
Do you have the right truck? The best-selling half-ton regular and extended cab is now available as a crew cab. It's got more standard horsepower, more torque, and more towing capacity than Ford or Dodge half-ton crews. Introducing the new Silverado half-ton crew. It's the right truck from Chevy.
There's something you should know about me. I'm not easy to live with. In fact, I have a really ugly side. I don't always let you speak when you want. I can leave you feeling shaken and confused. And if you ignore me, I might lash out, leaving you dead. I am a stroke.
Learn to recognize a stroke and act quickly. Time lost is brain lost.
Volkswagens have tight suspension, so they take turns really well. Yeah. Watch, after you enter this turn, accelerate. You'll feel the car pull you through.
Okay.
See how everyone else is braking?
It's pretty cool.
Do you feel the control?
I can really feel that.
Want to find out what makes a Volkswagen? Come drive it. You'll get it.
I'm back with Bob Whiting and Marvin Miller. And Marvin, we were talking during the break that nothing has really been clarified or proven as far as whether steroids really work to make a guy hit a ball 600 feet.
Exactly right. As I mentioned, bulking up the way steroids apparently allow a man to do and develop tremendous muscles, I think without doubt would enhance the performance of a football linebacker, a professional wrestler, a beer hall bouncer. But it remains to be proven that it enables you to hit major league pitching more consistently and further. I think this whole issue has become a kind of a political football, and in some ways it's hypocritical. I think the health aspects of this are important. I wouldn't denigrate that at all.
I'm going to have to cut you short there, Marvin. Sure. We're out of time. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Good luck with your book. Marvin, always nice to see you.
Pleasure, man. See you too.
Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tim McCarver. See you next time.
All televisions for Chevrolet's Tim McCarver Show are provided by Sharp. Sharp's Aquos liquid crystal televisions are the best-selling, best-looking, and best-performing LCD TVs in the world.